Welcome back to GTD. That's Keegan. I'm Micah, and it's time for some NASCAR talk. Had Texas Motor Speedway this past weekend. Keegan's violently ill, and that was the reaction to a lot of fans off this Texas weekend. However, I think there was a little bit of potential from the track, but before we get into that, let's talk about the winner, and that was Joey Logano. And oh my goodness, Joey Logano has done it again. Was not really up front for the entirety of the race. Magically appears with 20 to go. Kyle Larson messes up a restart. Michael McDowell drives face first into the wall, and 2 laps later, Joey Logano has won yet another race.
Yeah, shades of Nashville from last year with all the overtime restarts we had there.
Not quite 5.
And the fuel mileage. Just last year when we were at Texas, we had a bunch of restarts. I think we had 3, at least 2, maybe 3 restarts. I think we had 3 green-white checkers. I don't know if one of them was overtime, but we had 3 green-white checkers.
I mean, you look at Texas, it's been a wreck fest since the next-gen car came
No
in.
kidding. But yeah, Joey Logano gets this one done a week after being disqualified, which, I wanted to take him too last week when we were doing this, but I was like, no, I had morals, and I was like, I'm not taking him because of what he did to Cindric. Well, next time morals pop into my head, we're just going to go, nope, it's NASCAR. Who cares?
Yeah, this is why the playoff system kind of frustrates me a little bit. Not to get onto this already in the season, but you have a defending champ who's having a rough season, has 0 top 5s, just got disqualified. The storyline is, can he bounce back? Can he make a playoff push? Magically wins at Texas. Suddenly it's not a storyline anymore. Erased. Instantly.
Yep.
And I get you want to put emphasis on winning, but at what point is it just, driver has terrible year all year, problem magically fixed by winning, can go back to running 12th every
Well, you had Harrison Burton make the playoffs, you know?
I know.
I mean, it's Dale Jr. Had a great kind of rant about this on his podcast last week, I believe, just talking about how this playoff format doesn't discipline drivers. It rewards nothing and doesn't discipline off weeks, if to put it bluntly.
There's no penalty for having 2 bad months of the season.
Yeah, if you just, we sucked for, this stretch or whatever, it doesn't really matter because you want to race and you're in. But let's just talk about Texas, and because that's kind of,
Yeah, so I want to give my thoughts first on this because I think I have it in the doc here. I think the track weirdly showed some potential. However, I think with these current cars, it's never going to work. And let me explain. So I think that this track has the ability to create good runs with side drafting. You watch off the corner, if you can lay back in that outside and then late diamond across, you can get some great runs, or in turn 1 and 2, you can get some momentum on that high line. Then you can side draft and you can make passes. However, to do that, you have to be slightly in the dirty air of the car in front of you, which means with a next-gen car, it doesn't work.
Yep.
And I think that's the problem with this track. I think it still has potential if you're changing the car. And since NASCAR's not going to do that, I struggle to see how this track can be fixed. There's obviously the bump in turn 4 that is the stupidest track feature on the calendar. You go, okay, I can't follow this guy running the bottom. I need a run to make a move into turn 1 and 2. I'm going to go up half a lane to get the run. Oh, no, I hit the bump and I'm spun out and I'm in the wall. It happens every race, and I know they want to market it as it's difficult to drive. There is a difference between difficult to drive and laughably easy to crash.
Yeah.
There is no reason that you should consistently have 5 or 6 of the top drivers in the sport just going, oh no, I hit a bump. It's ridiculous. I hate it so much.
Okay, so your thoughts are potential, but it needs a new car.
Yes.
I'm going to say burn it to the ground and rebuild it.
I think if they fix the bump and change the car, it has potential. But
yeah, but they're not going to change the car.
I know.
The next-gen car is here to stay. That is a quote from Steve Phelps, I believe.
Yeah.
So, here to stay. Let's hope Texas isn't.
I'll never understand how you watch F1 not be able to pass all the time and go, you know what we need? A car that's more like an F1 car with underbody and diffusers and things.
It's funny you say that because I was literally watching reading this thing about Dale Jr. this morning, and the quote that they took from Dale Jr. was, "We're always learning watching other sports," and he mentioned the rise of F1's popularity. He said, "We are learning from F1." Now obviously he wasn't talking about not being able to pass, but it's pretty funny that you mentioned that. But yeah, so Texas was just caution after caution after caution. Really,
it's not fun.
Two spots.
Sorry to go back on this again, but it's not fun.
Yeah.
You can't say, "Oh, the racing was." No, it wasn't. Everyone spun out because they can't drive because it's all dirty air. There's 1.5 grooves. You can't pass. When you try to, there's no grip because there's no banking up there. There's no traction. They don't do anything to help with the traction. You spin out. You hit the wall. You get tight. You can't recover when you're tight because there's aero wash, and then you hit the wall. And then if you try to do something at the other end, you hit a bump, and then you hit the wall. They're hard. That's not good racing. It's not just, I want to wait for this guy to spin out because the track's going to spit him out eventually. It's not fun. I don't want to watch guys follow each other for 4 hours and just wait to see who doesn't spin out. It's stupid. Why would you want that as a, oh my gosh, it's so bad.
Yeah, I mean, granted, NASCAR didn't know this was going to happen when they did sign the contracts and stuff, and I know they have, every year added it back on the schedule, and it's really about marketing. Like, it is a really good market for a race, and to be honest, I don't think NASCAR cares particularly about how they care about, like, moving Homestead to Miami, or moving the championship back to Homestead showed that, like, okay, they do care about, like, racing and championships, things like this. As far as, like, Texas goes, I just think we're stuck with it. I don't think there's anything they're going to do.
Well, you look at the attitude of the people running the sport. It's like after Talladega when they said, "Oh, there are a bunch of lead changes. Why would you want to change anything?" It's the same attitude. They go, "Oh, there was a bunch of attrition, a bunch of carnage. Why would we want to change anything?" Because it's not racing.
Well, I will say, there's a few guys on social media. You have the Teardown, obviously, and you have some other like YouTube pages and stuff that put out polls right after the race. And I was shocked to see that the polls were mostly positive.
It's all the fans who just want to see wrecks.
Exactly.
And NASCAR knows that, and they're not going to change it.
Yep.
But for the people who actually want to see drivers race each other instead of just hit the wall because they get aero tight, we're stuck with this.
Yeah. So.
Oh my gosh. Especially when you have a car that is so good at utilizing intermediates right now. Look at Homestead, look at Charlotte, look at Kansas,
Las Vegas.
And you've built this horrible intermediate track that has a groove and a half, where every other intermediate track, the reason they're so good is because there's multiple grooves. And you can't run multiple grooves here because there's not enough banking, there's no traction, and then the one corner where it's actually flat out and you can get a run, there's a bump, and they won't fix the bump.
Yeah, you literally get airborne on the bump. Like, it's not like a bump at, like, an old, like, Atlanta or something.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, they're great drivers, drive around the bump. If they could drive around the bump, literally everyone wouldn't be wrecking.
Yeah, but let's talk about the race.
The actual race.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
The race itself. Let's start with Michael McDowell, just because that was a big storyline. Great day for Michael McDowell. I feel incredibly bad for the way his race ended. I do disagree with what he did to try and keep Joey Logano behind him, kind of just running him down the track.
My thing is Joey Logano does that same thing, so I don't care.
No, I'm not saying I disagree with like doing that. That's fine, whatever. I'm just saying I think he had a better shot if he had just held the outside.
Okay, yeah.
I'm saying he made the wrong move.
He would have hit the bump. He would have hit the bump on 2 tires. He would have spun out.
Well, let's say that doesn't happen. I think that was just the wrong move, trying to keep Joe Logano behind him. I think I would like to see what happened if he just stayed the top side and forced Joe Logano to make a move around him. But Joe Logano did have the run, so who knows? But yeah, incredible day for Mike McDowell. Very sad the way it ended.
As for Spire in general, you had hosts of our
on pole,
top 5, top 10 most of the race, and then this pit cycle.
Yeah.
Where you had a lot of the good cars get trapped a lap down. I feel like a guy who's gotten totally forgotten about. Ty Gibbs is running top 3 for a good portion of this race. And I know we've talked about a lot early in the season. He needs to show more speed. Well, he finally has. Yeah. And I would say this is one of the best races I've seen from Ty Gibbs. Was consistently pushing towards the front and then just got trapped a lap down.
Yeah, last few races, I mean, Talladega's Talladega. But the last few races, it's been up and up and up and up. Yeah, so, I mean, it looks like what we saw last year with him when we were going, he's about to win. The win's coming. It's almost here.
Last year.
Yeah, this is where he was kind of performing week to week last year. So very, very good to see him kind of on the rise again and really make sure that 4th, JGR car is where it needs to be. And honestly, if we're ranking JGR cars, it's Ty Gibbs and then Chase Briscoe, in my opinion.
I wouldn't go that far. I think Briscoe's still more consistent. Like, he's still If you're saying raw pace, I could maybe buy, but Briscoe's just more consistent.
I'm going raw pace. I know the points and everything else is a little different, but I think at the end of the year, we're going to be talking about Ty Gibbs being the better of the JGR cars than the 19.
All right, well, we'll see what happens to that. But Briscoe was also running well until he hit the bump.
Yep. Kyle Busch.
As
soon as they started,
Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, and then Mike Jones was like, "No!" That was one of the best reactions I've ever heard.
Yeah, that car looks incredible, by the way. One of my best paint schemes.
Yeah,
probably
Josh Berry,
top 2
from the lead.
Yeah, the Austin Cindric paint scheme that Josh Berry was running.
It looked like they photoshopped his square number onto the side of that. That was so odd.
Yeah, it was like Austin Cindric and Josh Berry had the exact same car, just a little more.
Yeah. But
Josh Berry's
so many good cars got just spat out by the bump or caught out in this pit cycle caution.
Yeah.
And at the end of the race, it was basically everyone thought it was Kyle Larson versus Ryan Blaney, and then Michael McDowell went, "What about me?" and then got into the lead after Kyle Larson. Just that car got tight. I thought Tyler Reddick was gonna have a chance until I want to know your take on the Daniel Suarez thing, because I've heard people saying Reddick cleared himself off of Suarez, and I get that he was not clear. But at the same time, if you're Daniel Suarez, you know the shape of that quad oval, and you are this much not clear. I feel like...
Yeah, but at the way Tyler Reddick came down, I mean, he would just have to slam on the brakes and give up completely to let Reddick in, and you can't expect to drive... Tyler Reddick wouldn't do the same. Tyler Reddick would do the exact same thing Daniel Suarez would do. Every driver would, because you're racing, you know? You're not like, oh, Tyler Reddick, you know... Go through. Like, no. Like, he knows he can't get in the grass because he watched it all weekend.
It's a very frustrating way to have my guy taken out.
Yeah, but that's, every driver. I mean, Kyle Larson, you see it all the time. They make mistakes. That was a Tyler Reddick mistake. It happens. So
it's just like when you're not clear by about 2 millimeters of bumper and you know what the line is in the quad oval, maybe don't keep your nose in for the preservation of both guys. But it is what it is.
It's just I think the angle and speed, he jolted. It's not like he came down. He swerved down last second.
That's the line. I don't know.
Yeah,
I also don't know what both driver spotters were saying in that moment. I don't know if Tyler Reddick was cleared. I don't know.
I don't think he ever got cleared. I think he just honestly forgot he was there, to be honest.
Also possible.
Yeah. But another sad day. Because you wrote on this doc, it's time to have the conversation about Chase Elliott. And it is. It is time to have the conversation about Chase Elliott.
The worst fourth in points I've ever seen.
Yeah. It's incredible how he's fourth in points, to be honest. I
have no idea.
He is very consistent, and he does. He's you know how we talked about Chris Buescher at the beginning of the season? Like the last 50 laps, you look, Chris Buescher's there. That's been Chase Elliott all year, pretty much, except, there's been a few races where he hasn't, obviously. Texas was one of those.
Yeah. You look at stage points, only has 56 stage points, the lowest of this top 5 by far. Granted, Christopher Bell doesn't have a ton either, but then after that, lowest until 10th, where he's even lower than Bowman. You go to laps led, Byron, 386, Larson, 596. Hamlin, 316. Reddick, 86. Bell, 139.
Alex Bowman has over 100 laps led.
Blaney has basically 200. Bubba Wallace has 103. Logano has 300. Austin Cindric, 226. Chase Elliott, 45.
Yeah.
And I know there's something to be said for staying up there and being consistent, but he only has 3 top 5s, too. He has less top 5s than Bell, than Blaney, has 1 more than Wallace, the same as Chase Briscoe, who I think none of us would say Chase Briscoe is a top 4 caliber driver.
Yeah.
And it's a weird conversation because, yes, he is 4th in points. Yes, he does have 6 top 10s. But also, you look at all 3 of his teammates, and you think, oh, there are races where Byron, where Larson, where Bowman could have easily won this race, and they didn't. Yep. Where all 3 of them have had the fastest car. Other than Bowman Gray and maybe a bit of the Martinsville race, what race did you say, oh yeah, Chase Elliott had one of the top 5 cars?
There isn't one. There isn't one. I mean, this is coming.
They haven't been able to qualify either. I feel the Hendrick qualifying graphic is 3rd, 2nd, 9th, 27th every week.
Yeah. And this is one of you said it, Bowman Gray. When he won Bowman Gray, we're like, oh, Chase Elliott figured out the car. He's back. Be ready to be fighting off Chase Elliott every week. And it just hasn't been that.
I think the thing with that is he was so good at Martinsville.
Yeah.
I would say later in the year, watch out for Chase Elliott in New Hampshire. I think he's going to be great there.
He's got the win at Dover.
It's the short, flat ovals. Watch out for him at Gateway.
Yeah.
He'll be good there. But the intermediates and the other tracks, He just can't seem to find it. Although I will say, I think did have a top 5 car at COTA that he just was not able to utilize because he got knocked back through the pack by Ross Chastain being his best heat-seeking missile impression.
That is fair. And there's plenty more road courses that he's been good at. So maybe with this car he can figure that out.
At some point, you have to get to the level of your teammates on speed.
Well, yes, but also the playoff format won't allow this. Like, he's not going to win a championship being consistent.
No, he's definitely
because
not.
you need the wins in the playoffs to move on.
If you ask me right now, who could I more easily see winning a championship, Alex Bowman or Chase Elliott? Based on speed this year, it's Alex Bowman. Because when he's hot, he's delivering consistent top 5 speed.
Yeah.
And Chase Elliott just has not had that.
Yeah, I agree. I think, yes, consistent's one thing, but in the day and age we're in now with this playoff format, you've got to be more than consistent. You've got to deliver wins from time to time.
Yeah.
And like last year, finished top 3 in points, was in the running to win the championship or the regular season championship going into the last race, I believe.
And this was anonymous in the playoffs.
Yeah, and because he only had the Texas win, And I think he will get a win this year, but he's going to need more than one if he wants a chance at the Final Four, to be honest.
My thing is, if this is the Chase, if this is like old school Chase, you reset 10 races, points format, I think Chase Elliott is absolutely up there with a chance. But
yeah.
The problem is it's now NASCAR has put so much emphasis on winning, and this car is frankly not capable of winning races right now.
No, I agree. I do think, like we said, the short flat tracks and the road courses, he's going to get a win this year. But we'll get to that later when we get more to those tracks because we have a lot of intermediates coming up.
Yep.
And speaking of that, you can check out our Kansas preview because Kansas is always a fun one.
Yes, Kansas will be a good time.
You can rinse out the Texas in your eyes and watch pretty Kansas and watch 2311 bring, whatever packages they bring.
Rocket ships.
Yeah, they're always good here.
I am so looking forward to seeing what Bubba Wallace does this weekend because we're kind of in the year of Bubba Wallace right now. He's the fastest he has ever been, and we'll talk about this more later in the week on the Texas episode, but I think he's going to be fun.
I do too.
To watch
I'm
this
excited.
Weekend. But that is it for the Texas talk and a little bit of the Texas rant earlier in the podcast. I don't apologize for that, actually. But that's it for GT.
Burn it to the ground?
Yeah, if you want to see some MLB content, that'll be out later this week, as well as our recap of Miami for F1. But for now, this has been GTD. That's Keegan. I'm Micah. We'll see you later this week.